Here are my 4 controversial takes on the Joe Budden podcast. 1, I don't think we'll ever see Ish leave the Joe Budden podcast. Let me explain. After reviewing the comments in the Joe Budden podcast community, I can infer that Ish is one of the most, if not the most, disliked character on the Joe Budden podcast. See comments like Ish needs to go, why is he still there? It's not that Ish is necessarily a bad guy, he just has really bad takes, a lot of people feel. But out of all the people on the Joe Budden podcast, I don't think Ish will ever be fired from the Joe Budden podcast. Here's the reason behind my theory. Ish makes Joe Budden look good. Ish is always playing contrary to what the majority thinks, even if it works to his detriment. And like I said before, him and his takes are wildly disliked by the Joe Budden podcast audience. So this makes Ish's character almost a villain on the podcast. What does a villain on the podcast make Joe look like? The hero. If you look back at Joe Budden's history up until now, Joe Budden a lot of the times has been the villain or the bad guy or the hothead, whatever platform he was on, whether it be Love and Hip Hop, whether it be the podcast when it was him, Rory, and Maul, whether it be in interviews, whether it be him on when he was with Academic, that hungry power struggle or everyday struggle. Up until now, a lot of the times, Joe Budden has always been a bad guy or a hothead or attitude or a villain, if you will. Get his interactions with him and the Migos on the red carpet or him and Lil Yachty. Is Joe really a bad guy? Who's to say, but it was always easy to pin him as the bad guy or the villain because there was no one doing more damage than him. That's where Ish comes in. It doesn't matter if it's Ish versus Dr. Umar or Ish versus Dr. Mark Lamont Hill, Ish not speaking highly of black people. Ish constantly makes himself look worse than Joe Budden, whether he knows it or not. And for that reason, I believe Joe Budden will never fire Ish. I will be speaking more on this and more topics on my podcast tomorrow, Monday, live at 4 p.m. on YouTube on my podcast, 10 Lions Podcast. Podcast is filmed live and we respond to comments in real time, so pull up. 4 controversial takes for the Joe Budden podcast, part 2 and 3. This one's for Flip and Ice. Let's start with Ice. There is a creator in the Joe Budden podcast community named Danny from the Stop. He feels like Ice is coddled, protected, and basically that Ice gets a unfair advantage on the podcast. He feels like Joe Budden basically babies him and then he deems him like not a good podcaster because of it. And I'd have to disagree with that take. I feel like a lot of times Ice is actually doing a good job commentating on things that he at least knows about. I feel like he's always giving good perspective when it comes to the rap and the hip hop and the music perspective, and also even with the things that are happening in the world when they discuss what's going on in the world. He has good takes, good opinions. He comprehends what's going on. I think that he does a better job than Flip, and I think he does a better job than Ish. So I feel like just because he has boundaries, like he doesn't want his girl to be talked about on the podcast, he doesn't want his family to be talked about on the podcast, that doesn't make him a bad podcaster. That just honestly just says to me that he doesn't want to play into the toxic behaviors that go on the podcast. And I don't think there's anything wrong with that, but y'all let me know if I'm missing anything about Ice in the comments. Now we gotta address Flip. Again, after reviewing the different comments and feedback from the Joe Budden podcast community, I can infer that Flip is not well liked on the podcast. You even got either celebrities or up and coming celebrities or like celebrity adjacent people saying that podcasts are better or the Joe Budden podcast is better without Flip being on the podcast. And that's nasty, by the way. But I will say this about Flip. Flip is getting better. Flip has gotten better. I don't know if it's because of the meetings in HR or the meetings with Ian or the meetings behind the scene with Joe, but ever since Melissa Ford left and ever since they separated Mona from Flip is doing better. Think about it. Ever since that whole tricky words thing with him and Mark Lamont Hill, you haven't seen Flip go viral for being an idiot or being loud or being rude or being like disrespectful or whatever the case it be is. If you pay attention to recent episodes, Flip is being more calm, relaxed, trying to be mature. You gotta give him a minute. Like he's trying though. Give my guy a fair share at growing and maturing on the podcast. That's all I gotta say about Flip, but y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. 4 controversial takes on the Joe Budden podcast, part 4. And this is probably my most controversial take out of the 4. Joe Budden does not have the credentials to speak on every topic that happens in rap and hip hop. Let me explain. Joe Budden's biggest success is from his podcast, not from his rap hip-hop career. And don't get me wrong, because I love Joe, this is not a diss to Joe. However, because Joe Budden does not have the credentials or a successful hip-hop rap career, some of his takes may sound hypocritical or blasphemous. Very recently, like on the last episode of the Joe Budden Podcast, Joe stated that these rappers / hip-hop guys are pussies, puppets, and some other P word that I can't remember for not speaking up on what's happening in the world, aka what happened in Minnesota. Do I agree with Joe's point? Yes. Is Joe hypocritical for making that point? Yes. Because in Joe Budden's hip-hop / rap career, he did not make a bunch of songs on what was happening in politics or what was happening in the world or what was happening in the country. So to be so passionate and point the finger at other rap guys, young rap guys in this era, because they're not doing something that you didn't do, is crazy. And while we're on the topic, Joe been retired for, I want to say like 10 years now. For someone that holds his own rap career so highly and his own rap ability so highly, why has it been so long since Joe Budden has stepped in the booth or released a single or whatever? I understand that he's retired, but you can see right now T.I. is about to drop an album. He just released a single, Fire. It's a fire leak. I don't know if he released a single or it was just a leak or whatever, but it was fire. It was old T.I. You see Fab, when 50 Cent was coming at his podcast, he hopped in the booth. He got in the booth, spit some fire because he still got it. I feel like I don't know for a fact, but is it possible that Joe Budden is not only retired but refuses to hop back in the booth because he has reached a level of success with his podcast that his music cannot match? Again, this is not a diss to Joe Budden, and I'm not even trying to be disrespectful, but it's almost similar to like a Stephen A. Smith who has so much to say about a LeBron James. But ain't no one coming out to see a Stephen A. Smith game. What are we talking about? All right, that might be a little bit disrespectful, and I apologize. But my point is that Joe Budden's success is from his podcast. So Joe Budden's like credit, like if he were to give takes on someone's podcast, those takes would be more valid and valuable than his takes on hip hop and rap, because he didn't have a successful rap hip hop career. Even if you're a fan of Joe Budden's music, can you honestly say Joe Budden is a top 10 New York rapper? I don't know. That was pretty controversial. I'll be talking about this and more topics on my podcast tomorrow on Monday at 4 p.m. 10 Lines Podcast on YouTube. It's live, so we respond to comments in real time. Y'all pull up on that, and y'all let me know what y'all think in the comments. Hey, if you guys like this video, make sure you check out these videos where we talk more about music, dating, and real life situations. Thank you for supporting the podcast. Make sure you check out these videos and make sure you subscribe. Peace.